Hey everybody, this is Josh Olive with Haven Comics. It's Thursday night, which means it is time for Shop Talk. And if you've been paying any attention at all, you know that we had some plans for Shop Talk before yesterday, but then yesterday happened and we chucked all of our plans out the window with a huge smile on our face because this is going to be way better than anything that we were just going to get out of me and Alan sitting here talking. So stick around and see the awesomeness as it unfolds. All right. Last time we were talking, or the last time that we were posting things out here, Alan and I were going to come on here. We were going to talk about comics and movies and the things that we love and the things that we're grateful for. And absolutely decided to throw all that out the window because I'm way more grateful for the fact that we have a guest tonight and who that guest is. I'm over the moon. So before we introduce our guest, I would like to introduce you to the rest of our cast of characters because we have one, and we'll start with Alan. Alan, you are a character, and you are also a co-host. So what's happening?
So the most important question that could have been answered this week for me personally has finally been answered, but I've got to ask that question to one particular person that's waiting backstage, and his name starts with an O and ends with a Win, to see if he knows the answer to the question, because, he did come up with all the questions for the quiz show.
He did. And speaking of Owen, you're on air tonight. We get to see your face.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yep. You're a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Nah, I never use my headphones anymore, so I don't even know how to really work them anymore.
So, Owen, the most important piece of trivia, I was asked earlier in the week, and I did not know the answer. And when I found out the answer, you were the first person I thought of. What kind of house does Black Panther live in? A Wakandominium.
Thank you, Alan. It was good to see you. A Wakandominium. Good Lord. That's
I thought you had a real question for me.
That
I
is
really
a
did too.
legit
I was looking forward to it. I was expecting it.
I know. I was getting ready. I was like, oh man, am I ready for this?
The other cast of our crew tonight is none other than Damon Hawk. What's happening, Damon?
Not much. How you fellas doing?
I'm awesome. I don't know about the other guys. How are y'all? Owen, you good?
I'm all right. Yeah, my allergies are getting me.
That sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
Alan, you good?
I'm always good.
Well, I say we cut the chit chat and get straight into our guest tonight. What do y'all say?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, y'all. We have got an awesome guest. You know this guy from all kinds of things, but you know him from Starman. You know him from Ex Machina. You know his gorgeous artwork that's all over the place. So we would like to bring on none other than Mr. Tony Harris. How are you, sir?
Hey, everybody.
We're going to blow you up so people can see you because they see our mugs a lot.
Welcome.
So, thank you for joining us on our show. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you about comics in general, how you got started, but you've got a project that's out right now, and we want to make sure that folks leave here and go directly to your page for that so that they can also order it. You don't all have to order it because I did order it at the retailer level, so we'll have a couple of copies at the shop, and those are going to come signed, so that's going to be awesome. Looking forward to that.
Do those have the remark on
them? If I say yes, will you do one?
Sure.
It didn't say so, no, but I certainly wouldn't turn it down.
The reason I asked is we originally launched with 30 remarks, and they went so fast that we just added another 30.
Well, I absolutely believe that. They had to go very quickly. But guys, we'll talk about the project, what it is, the vision for it originally, how it changed, and now that it's back in Tony's hands and it can come back out more the way it was originally envisioned. I'm really excited about it. But I guess before we get started with that and we tell people what you're doing now, I'm dying to know, because I'm a comic book guy, right? I love a good origin story. How did you get involved in this crazy business? I mean, were you like a teenager, or we had somebody on last week who didn't start until she was 29 years old, and now she's been doing it for 30 years.
Wow. I got out of high school and immediately got into comics when I just turned 19. I didn't have any money to go to college or the grades, and I wanted to pursue something artistic. And I didn't collect comics like a lot of professionals. I've read a few here and there, like everybody does. But I didn't really start collecting until I left home after high school, and I had nothing to do. So I moved to Athens, Georgia, because that's where all my friends went to go to college. And went there and discovered comics for real. Found some shops and just started populating the stores all the time, and met some other professionals in Atlanta, which would ultimately become Making Studios, which includes Brian Stelfreeze, Dave Johnson, Adam Hughes, Cully Hamner.
Cully's from Huntsville, where we're located.
Yeah. And Jason Pearson and some other people I'm probably not mentioning that I should, but it was a long time ago. But we all got together and met at some small shows there, and ultimately decided that we wanted to start a studio, and we all moved from different surrounding areas to Atlanta. And that's where we actually started going to shows again, there in the metro Atlanta area, wherever we could find a convention that had editorial from DC and Marvel present, and started getting work. And some of the guys were already working when we started the studio. Like Jason Pearson was already monthly on Legion of Superheroes. Adam Hughes was already a big name. Brian Stelfreeze was pretty well established at that point.
He was doing all those Shadow of the Bat covers at the time, right?
Yes, indeed. And
that was out of left field, and everybody was head over heels for those covers. They were so different from what had been before.
I think he did 50 in a row. It was a crazy number. But Joe Phillips was doing Miracle Man at the time.
Yeah, that was a good run.
And I was doing nothing. So I was working in the independent market, which was really booming at that point. There's a lot of publishers, and they all had money to pay. You had to wrestle them to get it out of them a lot of times. But and so I cut my teeth in the indie market, doing Nightmare on Elm Street, Doc Savage, just you name it, I did it. Twilight Zone, anybody that would pay me, I would work for them. And I got my break really for the big two at Marvel, doing Nightbreed, and did some Punisher stuff and some Incredible Hulk stuff. And that was but it was most of that was as an inker. And then I got Nightbreed, and my big break at DC was as an inker as well. And I started over Jason Pearson on Legion of Superheroes, actually. So that's the long and the short of it. I could go on for a long time, but you don't want to hear it.
Well, as long as you feel like talking, we're all going to be happy to listen.
Well, and then my first penciling gig at DC was a short story in Green Lantern Corps Quarterly. And I also got to paint the cover on that same issue. I did it with Ron Mars. And that's what got me started. So
wait a minute. Your first penciling, and they also let you paint the cover?
Yeah. I don't know
how. That's a heck of an audition.
I have no idea how that happened, other than the fact that I was already painting covers in the independent market, like a shitload of it. And I think that's what Archie Goodwin saw, and he was the editor on that book, I believe. And so Wade Grawbadger and I came in and did that Green Lantern story with Ron Mars, and Archie really loved it. And that was my first cover at DC, was a painted cover, actually.
What was that, like 1991 or 92?
It had to be 92 or 93. I can't remember. It's been so long. I know Starman came out in 94. Yeah. So it had to be at least 93. because that's
I think Archie was still.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say Archie was still like editor over there. So when did he leave DC?
When he died.
Oh, it was okay. There was still when he died. I thought he retired.
No, he had a very long bout with cancer, and he beat it, quite a few times, and it finally just caught up with him, and he passed just before I left the series, and that was largely why I left.
Okay.
So now you said that you had painted independent covers before you did the DC cover. How different was it jumping from painting independent covers to painting for a DC cover? Was there like massive amounts of difference? Were there more constraints, less constraints?
There's more money.
It's all about it.
Yeah, it paid very well compared to the rates that you were getting for the indie market, and that wasn't chump change either. I remember, doing really well and making a living doing it, and if you're lucky, you connected with the collector market back then, even then, and I had people buying my originals even then. I was very fortunate. But the biggest difference was money. You got about twice the amount of money you were getting in the indie market you got at DC. And I started at the low end of the totem pole. And I still don't know why it happened, because it was very unusual. Back then, there was a hierarchy that existed that's gone now, where you would a lot of guys would get in as an inker, graduate to penciling, and then after you proved yourself as a penciler for a while, then you got the honor, which is what it was considered, of getting to do covers. And now, usually, the interior artist is also the cover artist. And you got a lot of people breaking into the industry now doing covers just straight off the bat. And it was not like that back then.
There's a lot of guys doing covers now who are they're good artists, but they can't do sequential storytelling to save their lives. So you get that cover where they just do the one image.
Yeah.
And they can excel there. But the beef I have with covers anymore is they don't tell a story. It's just a portrait of some guy standing here looking off in the distance or something. There's no story there. That drives me nuts when that's the case.
Well, there's two schools of thought that go back to when I got in the business, and that is, and I don't know how much that exists now. When I work with editors at DC and Marvel now, I turn in one idea, and I don't do additional sketches, but I've earned that. I've been doing this for 33 years, and I'm a very well established cover artist, and so editorial tend to trust me. And I'm very thorough with my cover ideas. And there are, again, two schools of thought. Non-specific image that doesn't relate at all to what's going on the inside. A generic cover image that features the characters, and that's it. That way, if you're doing an inventory cover that's not slotted for a specific issue and it's just in the drawer, then they can pull that out anytime they need it if they're in a pinch. And then specific stories, which I tend to ask for scripts when I get hired. I like to work a little more specific than that, and key on like a really kick-ass scene in the book, or something that might allude to something that's going to happen on the inside of the book. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to sell that book. That's the first image that people are going to see, right? So it's your job as a cover artist to sell that comic and make it as exciting as you possibly can. So I do this thing where, as I'm working on an image, whether it be a painting or coloring it in Photoshop, I'll just get up from where I'm working and go across the room, and then turn my head away, make sure the image is pulled up, and then go, whoa, and see how that image pops. And if it pops from across the room, like I'm going to do a Grover here. Ah! So if my cover pops from that far away, then I know that when you walk into a comic book shop, it's going to pop.
As a retailer, thank you. Because so many covers just blend into each other on the wall. And when you've got people walking in and each book is competing for attention with all the other books,
Yeah.
when you've got ones that have covers that really pop out to you, that makes a world of difference.
Well, I'm very cognizant of that when I provide a cover for a comic book, because I'm competing literally with everybody else in the shop for that month. So I try to focus to my strengths, which are design and that kind of thing. So I really use a lot of design elements and graphics and stuff integrated into my imagery, because I find you don't see a lot of that on covers. So my covers automatically kind of, well, I hope anyway, have a little leg up on a lot of books.
So
One
now
of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you're doing, like, whether it's a cover or interior art, how much does you personally being able to get into the story that's being told play into the creativity side, or is it solely just like your love for art and the characters?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so let's say it's a really good story, and it's a really good story that you're into, that you're invested in.
Yeah.
Does that help you creativity wise, or is it more of just your passion for drawing when it comes to drawing, whether it's the cover or interior art? Did that make sense that time?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little of both. Again, I'm fortunate that I've been able to do a lot of creator-owned stuff throughout my career. So right away there, I have a lot of control over the story. Or I'm collaborating directly with the writer, like with Clay on The Whistling Skull. And James and I worked really close together on Starman. But James was very particular. He wrote and writes very, very thorough scripts, full scripts, very descriptive with all the dialogue there, which he'll tweak later once he sees what the artist has drawn. So I try to work on books and projects over the years that my collaborators are interested in actually collaborating, because that's not the case a lot of times. You'll get a job, and sometimes the writers just kind of want you to do your job and draw it. They're not interested in it in anything that I've got to say. If I have a different idea for something, and I've been lucky in the draw, no pun intended. As far as like who I've been partnered with over the years, I've done my share of work for hire that I was doing it to get a paycheck because I had a family to feed. I've got kids, I'm married, and everybody does that. But you try to find the stuff that you're invested in, like you mentioned, because the more invested I am emotionally and creatively in a project, the better work you're going to get out of me.
Tony, when you're getting scripts, is it easier for you to construct a story if you have a really tight script that has a lot of detail and a lot of, like, this happens, then this happens, and then it happens? Or is it easier if it's just kind of this is kind of the vibe?
It's a bad thing to give me too much time. If I've got too much of a deadline, I just kind of eat it up, overthinking things and obsessing over little minute details, and
right.
I work better under pressure. But I do like to be prepared, and I also prefer to work on full script.
Cool.
Because full script, it's not doing my work for me, but it helps me visualize things. If I read a page or the whole thing, and every page I'm turning, I'm actually seeing it in my head as I'm reading it. That's a really good sign.
Yeah, you get those hooks into your imagination that fire the different pictures and images and how things come together and how you can show a reveal or whatever. I can see that would be, if I had any artistic talent whatsoever, I think that I would operate better that way.
Yeah, yeah. And like the last, 3 or 4 big projects that I've been a part of, I was actually a part of from the inception. Creator on stuff, and Ex Machina being one. And so I was there. Like, I'll give you an example. Like with Ex Machina, Brian actually sold that project about a year before they brought me on, and I didn't know this until after I got the job, and we were collaborating and just on the ground running. But I was pitching something else to Wildstorm, creator own thing that I'm doing called Round Eye with James Robinson. But I was pitching this back then, and Jim Lee and I spoke that day, and he had to give me the bad news that they were going to have to pass. And it wasn't that he didn't like it, but at that particular time, Wildstorm and DC, they didn't see the potential for it with their stable of things and the way they were doing things. So they very kindly said, no, thank you, but we wish you all the best. And then simultaneous, they were having an editorial meeting that day discussing Ex Machina, which I was not a part of. And they were like, Jesus, we got to find an artist for this thing. We've had it for a year. And then this is a story that was told to me. Somebody in the meeting said, we need a Tony Harris type.
Only we could find one.
Somebody, anybody.
Like I had
have one.
Like I had already passed away or something. I don't know. So Scott, who was on that meeting with Jim Lee and me, he was in that meeting, and he goes, well, I just got off the phone with Tony, and we had to tell him no on Round Eye, and let me go ask him if he's looking for work. And so he gets back on the phone with me, says, are you open for looking at some other projects that we are developing? And I said, sure, why not? I'm actually looking for a gig. Round Eye, hoping it was going to be. And so they sent me the pitch for Ex Machina, and I read it, and literally inside of 15 minutes, I was back on the phone with Scott saying, I'll take it. It just knocked my socks off with the pitch.
I'm glad that the script struck you that way, because when the first issue came out and I read it, it struck me that way. This is a fantastic book. It was moody, it was dark, but it had this underlying mystery to it, and it was a beautiful book. I loved Ex Machina.
You're too kind, thank you. Well, none of that cliffhanger I don't want to say, because believe it or not, my wife and I, we meet brand new young fans that are just discovering Starman and Ex Machina, 30 years and 15 years respectively, after they've been completed, and they're both still in print. And so we still meet these young people every show that are still discovering the book. So I don't want to spoil anything for them. But the big cliffhanger at the end of issue 1 of Ex Machina was not even in the pitch.
Okay.
It kind of alluded to it. And again, I don't want to say too much, but it was just, I don't know if it was just the way Brian wrote the pitch, but I do remember that when I finished it, I was just gobsmacked, and I couldn't believe something landed in my lap like that. It was just so different than anything I'd read prior. I'd never seen a comic like that.
Did you tell him I'm a Tony Harris type? I think I might be able to do this.
I can be a Tony Harris type.
Oh my Lord. So, I mean, that's a fascinating story there, but how did you get onto Starman? Because Starman is a really interesting book. In many ways, it kind of flew under the radar initially, but in other ways, I mean, everybody who read it loved it. And I can tell you, Damon Hawk, whom I have known for a really, really long time, one of the first things we ever talked about was, have you read Starman?
Oh,
and he was preaching the gospel.
She says she's about to text Damon.
It's my favorite book of all time. I love it.
Thank you.
Mine too.
Thank you.
It doesn't hurt that you pass a resemblance of a little bit to Jack there, Damon.
Maybe,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Well, maybe, yeah.
No,
I can see
no,
that.
no.
I almost wasn't. I almost wasn't on the book. I met James the first year I went to San Diego Con, which I believe it was 91 or 92. I can't recall now, but right around there. And so us Gaijin fellas were going out as a group for the first time to kind of start cutting our way into the industry and making a name for ourselves. And I met James there, and he had just done the Golden Age and just come off of that, so he was kind of white hot at that point. And he was developing some other stuff, including Firearm for Malibu. And
love that book. Cully Hamner did such a great job on that.
Yeah.
On the first couple of pages of the first issue of that book, he actually did cameos of a couple of guys who used to run a store here in town, a comic shop here in town. So Bill and Eric are in those first couple of pages of that book, and and they're spot on. They're perfect.
Which we were very want to do back in those days as young guys. We were constantly sneaking people that we knew into stuff. So it's like a Where's Waldo now. But so I met James, and he came over, and we hit it off pretty quick. And he mentioned to me this book he had called Starman, and it was in development. And he said, "There's one." And he told me about it. That Jack was this young guy that was full of piss and vinegar, and didn't have a great relationship with his family, and his old man was the Golden Age Starman, and there was this mantle that was to be passed down to his kids, and it sounded great to me, because again, I was also in this massive learning curve at this point in my career, because I did not have the encyclopedic knowledge of comic book history all the way back to the 40s that most guys in the industry do have. So I was having to teach myself and catch up on 40 years worth of history with artists and writers and all the characters' backstories, and go to school while I was actually being a comic book artist. Crazy time. And
like building an airplane while it's going down the runway.
You're damn right. And I think that ended up being a strength for me in the end, because I didn't come with a lot of baggage that a lot of guys had, and preconceived notions of what they thought should or should not be perpetuated as far as a character or whatever. I was able to come to things with fresh eyes. And so James said, "There's one hitch. We can't actually do it right now," because he went to Archie Goodwin, and James loved that character. But he was specific about it being Ted Knight, which is what he wanted. But the name was currently being used on the Will Payton series.
Oh yeah.
And so Archie said, "You know what? I don't know how much longer that one's going to actually keep going, because the sales, I think, have dipped pretty bad." And so he said, I promise you," because it was just the name. Back then, you could actually, as a writer, you could go in and actually reserve a character and say, "When this is done and you guys are finished doing that, I want dibs on that character next," which is crazy, right?
Now they exercise no such limitation.
No,
you want 400 issues of Wolverine? You got it.
That's right. And like now, it's very, very, very different now. Back then, you had this real close relationship with editorial, because all those guys were freelancers before they became, staff. And they came with this really rich experience that we were able to draw from that was just fantastic. And so you had this sort of quid pro quo with editorial as an artist and a writer. And if you earned their respect, then they would return that respect by giving you access to things you normally wouldn't have access to. So Archie promised James at that point, on the strength of the Golden Age, he said, "When that name becomes available, I'll make sure that it lands in your lap, and you can pitch what you want to pitch." And of course, Archie had already read his pitch by that point and loved it. But at that point, there were 4 group editors, and every pitch that came in the door, each one of the group editors had to give it a thumbs up, and they could also submit notes and ask for changes if they didn't like something you were pitching. So that's how it happened. But I left Gaijin during that point, and had some serious personal issues that happened to me, not with me and the guys. And it was time for me to go after about a year. So I left and I moved back to Macon, Georgia, and got my life together, and literally kind of lost all my connect that I had with the industry. All my people at Marvel, all my people at DC, I just lost all of it because I had to kind of rebuild things. And when I did, I heard through the grapevine that James had gotten the green light on the Starman pitch, but he had lost touch with me and didn't know how to get in touch with me. And so he went after Cully Hamner, who he had just finished doing Malibu, the book at Malibu, the firearm book. And so I almost lost the damn thing to my ex-studio partner.
Oh,
and
what a different world that would have been.
I heard. Well, I'm not necessarily a bad guy. Cully's a fine illustrator. He's a great storyteller. Mucho respect. But I heard this rumor, and I immediately just started calling everybody I could call, because there was no internet then. You couldn't just shoot somebody a damn email or something. So I had to go through proper channels to try to find James again. And I was like, no, please don't give it away. I still want that book so much, because this is my chance to rebuild everything I had spent a year building, all my connections to the entire industry, and at a mainstream publisher. And so thankfully I was able to get in touch with James, and we reconnected there, and I expressed my continued passion for the book. And so he said, yay, you're in. And so we took the pitch back to Archie again, and he said, I've got a guy. And I had just worked for Archie before that, as I mentioned on the Green Lantern book. And so he was all about it. And he was like, hey, how about you even use your inker you used on the Green Lantern book? Because I didn't have any idea of what we were going to do there. So basically we just took the whole team from there and just moved straight over to Starman. And Archie and I sat down with James, and we all started thinking about designing the characters, and began the whole process at that point.
Now, speaking of designing characters, you've got some interesting stuff over your right shoulder. Yeah, you go pretty in depth on your character designs.
Yeah,
you like to hide Easter eggs in there. You like for things to be functional.
Yep.
And real feeling. It feels like I've never asked you that, but it based on what I see, you want something to feel real and grounded. You don't just put a bunch of pouches on somebody and say, well, I'm sure he keeps important stuff in those things.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose, and it contributes to an overall aesthetic, but there's this whole idea behind it of this is functional, this is real, and it's grounded.
Will you, to that end, will you bring me those goggles?
We're going to get to see the goggles. Damon, Owen, y'all hold on to your seats.
I'm all about it.
While he's doing that, Damon or Owen, what are y'all's? I know y'all are huge fans. What are your favorite moments from Starman?
Sand and Stars. Wesley Dodds meeting up with Jack and going on the adventure with the I can't even. What are the blimps?
Yeah, the dirigible.
Yeah, that was. I reread that all the time. All of it. I mean, I got my wife to. It was the first thing that I asked my wife to read, and she read the entire run. And she was heartbroken when Tony left the book. As was I.
One of the things I loved about Starman is that it
In
just
hindsight, I was too. That I get asked a lot when I do interviews. Do I have any regrets? And I don't. I was very driven in my younger years, and I still am. So I did things very deliberately. But the one regret that I do have is I wish I had not left Starman with issue 45. If I could do it all over again, I would not have left the book. Of course, hindsight's 20/20, right?
It is.
The book was already very successful, and we were doing just fine. I mean, there was no question at all that we were going to get the full 80 issue run out of it, and our sales were just tremendous. But Archie had died at that point, and James and I were arguing a lot. We were butting heads creatively over things, and he wanted to take Jack into space. I thought it was the stupidest goddamn thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I basically threatened him. I said, if you take Jack into space, I'm going to quit and I'm going to leave. And he called my bluff. And like I said, we were not getting along at all at that point. The problem we were having is that we were both very young, and you couldn't tell us a damn thing. We thought that our shit didn't stink, and that we knew the right way to go, and we had all the answers. And I knew I was right, and James knew he was right. And
and you were both heavily invested.
Yeah.
In the book.
Yeah. What? Oh yeah. My wife's going to take this from me, but
does she do that a lot? She takes your toys away
just so I don't start playing with it. But I don't know how well you can see this because of the light, but this is a prototype for Jack's cosmic staff that I've been working on and off on for years. And it's got all of the details. If you look at the schematic in the Starman Annual, where we have a diagram of the cosmic rod, this is exactly to scale, and all the detail is actually here. It's not finished yet. I've had to rebuild it, portions of it, more than a few times. And like here's a section here that goes up on the top.
Right.
And that fits. We even have the venting stuff. This fits up on the top, and then the scoop, which is actually in the middle of actually being sculpted right now, is here. And then I'm going to cast this in transparent PVC, so we can actually put lights in it, and it'll be button activated on the body of the staff.
That's amazing.
Hey James, glad you joined us. I know you are an artist. The gentleman we are talking to is one hellacious artist. Stick around; you'll learn a lot from this man. And
what was the question that I was talking about? This stupid cosmic rod about?
We were talking about how you to ground your characters into looks and what they carry and what they wear.
Verisimilitude.
Yeah, so I tend to have a habit of building props that I know I'm going to use in a book, because I don't want to have to make it up from scratch every time I draw it, especially if it's complicated. Like Ex Machina, for example, that was extraordinarily complicated costume, and I totally went against everything that I knew was going to be smart, and I said, this time I'm going to design something simple. Nope. And I'll get to that in a minute, but like these are Jack's goggles.
You take those to conventions and charge people to wear them?
You could.
No.
You could.
No, especially not with me. But yeah, these are the ones that I bought 30 years ago and used them throughout the series, and I've kept them. And here's a great story. This is the patch that's on the back of Jack's jacket.
Right.
This was actually made by a fan.
Oh, wow.
In 1993.
Oh, wow.
The year that James and I went to San Diego to promote the book, all we had was a poster, that big bluish poster that has the Oscar Wilde quote on it.
Mm-hmm.
The book wasn't even out yet. We just had that poster. We were signing that at the show, and this guy shows up in full costume as Jack Knight.
Wow.
Had the cosmic rod, everything. and this was pinned to the back of his jacket, and I just flipped out. I'm like, that's some serious love and dedication for something you haven't even read, you know?
Yeah, for real.
And I had my picture taken with him, and I got some shots of him in the costume and everything. And then he took this off the back of his jacket and gave it to me.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I'm embarrassed that I don't remember his name. So if you're out there, and I certainly hope that you are, thank you so much. This has been a cherished possession of mine for almost 30 years, and has lived through my experience and career with Jack the entire time, and it's never left my studio. It's always been with me. So that was pretty amazing. I haven't experienced anything like that since then. And Starman fans, you know, Damon, you're one of them. They're a special kind of motherfucker. Okay.
You're not wrong.
You guys are some diehard sons of bitches, and I mean that in the best possible way. Thank you so much for that. Love.
It's just such a personal story, like not just the story, but like your art added to the story. Like the nuances just melted together so well.
Thank you very much, and my heart's in it, and I certainly hope that shows when people look
It
at
definitely
it
does.
and read the book. I used myself as Jack when I was drawing the book, and I did that not out of vanity, but people ask why, and back then I was at the beginning of a long relationship with Photo Reference, which has been very good to me, and I think shaped my work tremendously. And so I needed a model for Jack, and at first I used my brother because we look very, very close to each other. He's younger, but he moved away and went to New York City to pursue acting, and he's been up there for 30 plus years now. And so he wasn't available to me all the time. So I said, I need somebody that is never going to be busy and is always going to be available when I need to shoot them for something.
Even for those 2 a.m. photo sessions.
So
I know just the sucker for that.
Yeah, so I wasn't a half bad looking fellow when I was young. And I kind of fit the look of what James, because my first take on Jack was he had long hair.
Yeah, ponytail.
Yeah, I think my sketches are in one of the trade paperbacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was very 90s looking, Yeah. And James's idea was a little different, and he said he wanted to have Jack be kind of a 50s greaser, with long sort of shaggy hair, wears it like, biker would back in the 50s, and was very much kind of a bohemian, ding dong, just kind of in love with everything that was old and came before him, and owned his own secondhand store and loved antiques, and I happened to be that guy, like from top to bottom. That explains me to a T, and so that was why we ended up. I did up a little drawing, and that's also in one of the trades.
I got a question.
And
so my favorite issue is issue 29 when y'all introduce Bobo Benetti.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that character like? When did y'all start thinking about him? Because he is the quintessential rat packer, 50, 60.
The only direction I got from anybody was James said, he told me who he was, and said this guy is an invisible version of a dude that should have been in the Rat Pack, and it's all about the stovepipe sharkskin suits, and carries that Zippo, and drinks martinis, and so we knew he had to be big and strong and just a huge dude. So I just basically that was straight out of the barrel of the gun. I just sat down and drew him.
That character is awesome. Like I really wish he would have gotten like developed even further. Yeah, something outside this.
Me too.
Like, I mean, I think most of the characters should.
I would have read the shit out of that book.
Yeah, I would
love that.
I would have liked to have done more with him. He was really close to me, and all of his tattoos I designed from scratch.
The tattoos were the best part, man, because they're so classic, you know.
And I don't have his tattoos, but I do plan on getting the big one that he's got with the playing cards and the heart and all that. I just haven't got around to it. I do have some of Jack's, or actually, I should say it the other way around. Jack's got mine. Got that one.
Yeah.
That is up on Jack's arm up here.
Yeah.
I got that a few years ago on my hand.
That's awesome. Tony, the star, the one on your hand, the one on the back of Jack's jacket.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy. His name is Chris. He lives in the Atlanta area as well. And he actually has that actual size on his back, squarely on his back.
Yeah. I met a guy that had that. I might have met your friend, actually.
It's possible. He plays in a band.
He's not even a fan of Starman. He doesn't know where it came from.
No, he's totally a fan.
Man, you would not believe the number of people that I meet at shows with Starman Inc. There's shitloads of people. And
brother, it's going to be my first tattoo.
It's always this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's iconic. It's beautiful. It's one of the best things I've ever seen.
Well, just for your edification and all you other Starman fans, it's based on an equatorial zodiac. It'll tell you everything you need to know. It's not a compass. It's a zodiac.
I have to say hi to Ben real quick. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, little buddy.
What's up, Ben?
There he goes. He's waving.
So yeah, I just recently got that one.
Oh, beautiful.
Nice.
And
That's lovely.
She's going to have an exact version of her, but rotted into a skeleton on this part of the arm here. I haven't got that yet, but yeah, the one that I did for Bobo, I'm really going to get that. So I just haven't got around to it yet. I got a lot of ink, so.
It's awesome, man.
That is awesome. When are you going to get that tattoo, Damon? Because this is the first I've heard you talk about actually getting it. You've talked about like I want to get it for a long time.
I'm toying with it for a while. I promised
myself
myself after I lost my weight that I'd go out and do it. So now it's just a matter of.
Do you have any other ink?
No, that's going to be my first. You're going to pop my cherry, Tony.
Don't ever say that to me again.
James, don't worry. We're going to talk about the book, The Whistling Skull, here in just a minute. So hold on to your hat. We're going to get to that.
I have one more Starman question, if I may.
Yeah, look, I'm at your disposal.
Oh, yeah. No, this is Josh's show. I mean, if he'd let me, I'm sure me and Damon could just talk about
Oh, and
Starman.
I brought you and Damon on specifically because I know that if you could talk to anybody, it would be this man.
Yeah.
And he's on the show, and I thought it would be criminal not to give you guys an opportunity to talk to him.
I go to sleep at 7 o'clock every night. I'm here for Tony. That's the only reason I'm here.
Well, you have to get butt up. You have to get up butt early in the morning. So yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy to do it, fellas.
Early.
I don't do a lot of press. Like I rarely do press. So if you see me anywhere, it's going to be on the circuit.
All right. Hey, hold on a second. I'll be right back.
And I've been very busy during when everybody came out of COVID. I do about 10 or 12 shows a year now. So, but I'm going to have to cut back on that because I'm starting up that new creator-owned book with James Robinson I mentioned. But we
Round Eye, right?
Yeah. Yep, Round Eye. We have a publisher for it. James has already written the first 6 scripts. The first arc is 7 issues. And I've already got about 15 pages of pencils on the first issue complete. And can't tell you who the publisher is yet because we just wrapped up the contract phase of everything. And they want to make a press release and do it all proper. So
there's a lot of really good publishing options out there right now.
Yeah, we're very happy with where we landed. And I could not be more thrilled to be working with James again. Let me tell you a secret. We didn't speak for about 10 years when I left, and it took us some time to heal and mend things between each other. We're still super good friends now. We talk all the time because we're working together again, which is great. But I'm gonna tell you something. When we mended things up and got back together as pals, first thing we did was work together, and we did that C-3PO one shot for Marvel.
So good.
Some of you saw it, some of you didn't. But I'll tell you something. that lightning that we had together on Starman was still in the bottle and still right there for us to just uncap it and go. It was like we never stopped talking to each other, and everything just poured out of me and James like we were still doing Starman. It was crazy.
So while we're talking about that exact thing, I want to let you know, I know I've talked to you before about the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo, which is April 21st through 23rd next year, about coming to that. I've been trying to get a hold of James because ideally I'd love to bring in the two of you to the show together. I'm working on it. I'm not allowed to say this, but I'm working on getting a couple of writer and artist teams that everybody like goes, those guys are peanut butter and jelly. It would be like Marv Wolfman and George Perez kind of a thing, right?
Well, I'll mention it to him because at that point the book will be announced, and it'll behoove James to go and do it.
Wait, did I miss something?
We are going to do a lot of promotion.
Sorry, what was your question there, Owen?
Did I miss something? Like I had to leave for a second. Do he and James have another book coming out?
Yeah,
they do. It's called Round Eye. It's
a creator-owned book.
And since you missed it, you can't have a copy.
You're just salty. It's okay.
That's the character right there.
All right, I'm in.
And I'll tell you, it's funny. Every time I see you post anything or you have anything with Round Eye on it, my wife's best friend in college, her roommate, she was married for a bit to this guy who is a super weird dude, just very strange man. And he believed that he was part Native American or something, and he would go to these things. He was not at all. But one time his wife was pregnant, and he said he was going to name his kid Washaw, which meant round eye in whatever Cherokee or whatever, right?
In a native tongue.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
no.
Well, let me just say this. Round Eye's got nothing to do with Native American culture.
Oh, I know.
They don't.
But it makes me think of that every time I see it, and I'm like, God dang it!
I've never talked to a Native American person or read anything that said they ever referred to white people as round eyes. It is a very specific derogatory term used by the Japanese.
Yes.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that and gaijin, they mean the same thing. It literally means outside man.
And conveniently, you've already been a gaijin.
Exactly.
Gaijin Studios. So.
So in our book, Round Eye washes up on the beach one day out of nowhere, and everybody else is Japanese. Everyone. And nobody has ever seen a white person.
What era is this?
That's all I'm going to say right now. But so that's where he gets his name in the story.
What was that, Owen? Are you asking what era, what time period this is set in?
What era? What era is it?
We never tell you.
Okay.
But
I mean, it's not like modern day. It's not like modern technology, right?
No. It looks like feudal Japan. Like it looks like 1500s, 1600s, feudal Japan. But that's all I'm going to say.
No, that's cool.
Tony, is it going to be an ongoing book?
Yeah, it's going to be a series of miniseries like Hellboy.
Oh, that's the perfect format.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I love that.
And so it's not killing us to produce the book. We do an arc, and it takes us the amount of time it takes us to do it. We're not on a monthly because I'm inking all the stuff myself. And we are so lucky to have Jeremy Cox coming in as our colorist. He's amazing. If you don't know, he did Planetary with John Castor and Warren Ellis.
God, what a great book.
That's like one of my top 5 series all time.
Yep, and he also worked with James Robinson on Leave It to Chance.
I love Leave It to Chance.
Yeah, great book.
The more I hear about this, the more I'm hoping it is one of 2 publishers.
Okay.
And Josh already knows which one I really want it to be.
I know you want it to be AWA.
I'm not going to tell you, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
Either AWA or Mad Cave. So either
that laugh was just horrible because now you it's like it was so promising and also devastating.
Yep, he's either laughing because I'm a fool or I just nailed one of them.
I don't want to say anything because they were very specific about wanting to make a proper big deal out of it. So, I mean, and I personally, I'm biased, but I think it is a big deal because it's me and James reuniting after a very long time. And I know I'm biased again when I say this. I'm telling you fellas right now, it's the best shit James has ever put to paper.
So other than James,
I know you've got 4 copies sold right now.
Yeah.
That's right.
We talk any shit. I get 3 for myself.
Well, here's the thing. I own multiple copies of Starman so that I can loan it out to people, so I can get them hooked on it. Anytime I find somebody who hasn't read it, I say, "Take this copy." I've got like 5 copies of like the first 2 or 3 trades.
Thank you.
That I just keep on hand. It's the only book I do that with. So I would love to have another one.
Well, you're gonna because we own this property 50-50. He is just as invested in it as me, and we have a deal in place with our publisher. And as the word we get from on high is, as long as the book is selling and there's an audience for it and people want it, we will continue to do Round Eye. I'm hoping and crossing my fingers. I really am hoping that this becomes our Hellboy.
That would be great, man.
And I honestly don't care if I work on anything else beyond this after this. And James has taken something that I originally conceived of as a one-off. You know, 100 some odd page graphic novel. That was it. It ended, and he's flowered Round Eye into something that is just this epic, beautiful story that has the potential to become a universe.
Well, he excels at world
I'm so
building,
excited.
but
I can hardly sit in
love
this
the
chair.
idea of you being the architect.
Yeah, and he just has a mind like that. I mean, he took Round Eye and just took characters that we created and made them so. I mean, they're so embedded in. They endear themselves to you immediately after like a 22-page story.
That's awesome.
And you care about everybody that's in the book. And that's the key, right? You make people care about these characters. They give a shit, and they're invested right there.
Yeah.
And then the plot happens because you want to see where they go and what happens to them and how they wriggle out of a situation or what have you. But if you're not invested in the character, then the plot doesn't matter. Unless it's just so clever that you can't help it. But even then, it's just a clever plot, and you don't love the characters, so you're not invested as a reader.
And James is exactly the same way that I am in that no matter how trivial a character may seem to you when you're reading something, they get the same attention and care that every other character in the book gets. There are no throwaway characters in books that I work on, and I that's by design.
Outstanding.
You can tell that by the way you draw your backgrounds. Your backgrounds actually have people and things in them. It's not just some random stuff that, I needed to fill up a space and it needed to be this shape. It's like you're in a real place and you really have those people there. And
and they have their own stories too. And there's a story for this mug that's sitting over on this table. I mean, all of it. I believe all of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You've got the commission, you said, from a guy that like he asked for 3,000 Easter eggs or something in there. You just like as many as you can cram in.
Did I say that to you?
Well, you said it in your Facebook post. You're like, look, this is going to be chock full of Easter eggs.
Oh yeah. No, the guy said I could talk about it, but I just can't use his name. But yeah, this was the commission that shut my commission list down and turned it off. It's going to be a painted commission, and it's going to be really, really large. Probably like over 30 by 40 inches. It's going to be enormous.
Oh my God.
And it's going to be horizontal, and he wants ex machina is what it is. But he wants everything in it. The entire series in this one image.
Wow.
So I'm not comparing myself to Alex Ross. I'm not, right? But you guys have all seen his Crisis poster he did with George.
Yeah.
There you go.
So does that mean that you and Brian will also be in that? Because famously, you guys showed up towards the end of the run.
Yeah.
That was one of the best things I ever. I was like, oh no. Oh, this is, oh my God. I couldn't believe it, man. What was that like? drawing yourself and Brian in a comic book.
That was super meta. I mean, that was it was nuts because we were actually in New York City, going to visit the site, and I don't think either one of us had been there yet, and that was a pretty special trip, and so Brian and I actually had the script from him. He had already written it at that point. And so we actually shot all the photo reference for that whole sequence.
Oh, wow.
I got to have Brian right there in front of my camera and had everything shot, first person. And it was really weird just to think that we were appearing as ourselves in a fictional comic book, interviewing with the mayor of New York City to do the comic book adaptation of his life.
It breaks your brain a little bit.
But we didn't get the job. And it went to Garth Ennis and Jim Lee.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that part.
Who ended up writing a one-page cameo that they did and drawing that appeared in the book.
So great.
That's the most bizarre thing I've ever done.
It's one of the best little inside things in a comic book ever.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't think it was going to work when Brian first told me about it, but
I thought it was brilliant.
It did.
So there's is it a movie that they're making?
Yeah.
Okay, and Oscar Isaac is playing Mitchell?
Yep. It was already out last year sometime in Hollywood Reporter. And what happened was Oscar was made aware by someone. This is the story I got. Excuse me, about our comic. And I think what happened was somebody came up to him with one of our comics and said, "Hey, check it out. There's a comic book. It's the same name as your movie you were in called Ex Machina." And then he just read it, or looked at it at least, and he fell in love with the concept. And he's no stranger to pop culture, in Star Wars and Moon Knight. And so he read the story, I think maybe just the first issue. And he immediately said, I've got to play this Mitchell guy. I have to play this character. And so his production company are responsible for the whole thing happening. And they didn't just option the property to make a film or a television series. They bought the film rights. So they fully intend on making it.
That's amazing.
So it was originally purchased to be done serialized on television, through one of the streaming services.
Right.
Not too long ago, a few months ago, Oscar changed his mind, is what I'm told by our legal people, and so they changed the rights agreement to now it's feature films.
Okay, that's fantastic. I think that
terrible.
should be seen on as big a screen as possible.
Right, it didn't change. It didn't change our deal at all. It just because the money stayed the same, everything's the same. He thinks it would be better served as a film franchise than serialized. So I'm kind of on the fence on that, but they've already hired screenwriters, and they are at work putting together a screenplay for the whole thing and a treatment.
And I heard that they were going to call it The Great Machine rather than Ex Machina. Is that?
Yeah, and and it's because of his other movie.
Right. That made a lot of sense.
So that's kind of meta too, isn't it? Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's kind of crazy that you and Cully, both from Gaijin Studios, are having these movies made from characters that you came up with.
Yeah, yes. Hey man, I'm fortunate. I've made some choices earlier in my career that I hope to pay off when I was older, and they have. I also did a book with Mark Miller called War Heroes, and that was part of his big sale to Netflix. So that's coming too.
Fantastic.
So in a situation like this where they're going to take, properties that you've worked on, and they're going to, that you were the main artist and everything, they're going to make them into a feature film, or whether it's a TV show, it doesn't matter. For the sake of this question, how much of that could you possibly play a role in the future? Say like a conceptual design artist, or, it's already one and done for you, or?
I'll show you. I won't tell you. I'll show you. Hold on.
Sweet. Now I'm stuck looking at you for this sucks.
It's like looking in a mirror, isn't it?
I know. I mean, I'm going to ask him for those goggles, and if he sends them to me, I'm going to wear them every time I'm around you.
I can see-
look.
You'll wear them once.
Can you see that?
Kidding.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
That looks familiar.
that's amazing.
it does look very familiar.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Did you build that yourself? Like this?
This is completely scratch built by me and painted and weathered by me.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
And take it off this mannequin head. It's even got the liner.
Yeah. Oh man,
Oh wow.
that's fantastic.
This came out of a helicopter pilot helmet. And these were like safety goggles that I flipped upside down and then cut them to shape.
Right.
And then I wanted it to look like it had a lot of oil and gas and
Mm-hmm.
filth on it and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so there's this that I built, and I used this through the whole series for photo reference. So every time you saw Mitchell in costume, I was able to actually shoot it, which made it super, super easy. Thank you, baby. And then to go with that, I'm actually building the costume as well. So,
Outstanding.
and I'm using a wetsuit for his bodysuit that goes underneath it.
Very cool.
And this has even got like the bullet holes in it and all that. And it comes apart at the sides. And I am building the rocket pack. But I can't show that to you because it's in pieces in a box right now. And I'm in the hunter-gatherer phase where I'm collecting all the parts because I build everything from scratch or I make it. I'm a maker as well. So, and I've got like a 7-foot-tall Chewbacca costume over there.
I saw that.
I saw a picture of your son in that thing that you posted.
Yeah,
Holy
that's
cow,
amazing.
that was brilliant.
Yeah, and that was all scratch built too. So
How
funny.
hot does he get in that?
it's
Hot.
pretty damn hot. But that started with a sculpture that I did, which was this.
Uh,
And this is a foam latex casting out of the sculpt I did.
So that's what he looks like without all the hair, huh?
Yeah, that is exactly what Chewie looks like.
fantastic. Hey Tony,
Wait a minute.
if you could cast anybody as Kremlin, who would you pick?
John Malkovich. So a quick answer.
Awesome.
Yeah, I always. Did you ever see a movie he was in called? I think it was called Rounders,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, where he's the
Yes.
Russian.
Teddy
Yeah.
KGB.
Poker movie.
and he
Pay
played
the man his money.
he played the Russian, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every time I think about Kremlin, that's who I think about. And plus, Malkovich is just an amazing actor. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He is.
I don't know. And guess what? Kremlin's an old dude, so he's kind of the perfect age to play him.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but unfortunately, those kinds of decisions are not going to be mine to make. So,
I love
Hey, you
I love
never
how
know.
quick
They
you were
might
on the
say,
draw
hey,
with that, though.
what do
You
you
didn't
think?
have to think about it. It was there.
but I do, as part of me and Brian, as part of our contracts when we sold it, the film rights, Brian was guaranteed the first draft of the screenplay.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's already written it. And as part of my contract, I am to be involved in the design and construction of the flight suit
Outstanding. That's outstanding.
and the jetpack. So,
Are you just going to take it to them and say, "Here you go. It should look like this"?
well, I figure there's a better than slight chance of them actually filming the movie in Atlanta
Yeah.
Right.
because
Yeah.
all the Avengers films were shot there. It's like Hollywood of the Southeast now.
That's where they're filming Stargirl.
And I live 2 hours south of Atlanta, so when production starts, I'm just going to commute. And yeah, on day one of production, I'm showing up with the flight suit and the jetpack. And I'm going to say, you don't have to do it exactly like this because I know you fellas want to put your stamp on things, but this is a really good jump off point. And they can do 3D scans of the helmet and everything and jetpack, and then that gives them a lot of insight directly from the designer on the stuff that they normally wouldn't have. So
And when you explained, one of my favorite things is what that you showed there and the way you built it. You built it to look weathered and like it's been through things, right? It's not bright and shiny off of the factory floor.
No.
It's been through hell, and it looks like it, and that's awesome. I hope that they take that part to heart because that's one of the things that kills me in movies when they're like, but we can make it bright and shiny. Yeah, but that doesn't serve the story.
Yeah, well, I'm like the biggest Star Wars nerd on planet Earth. I'll fight you for that title.
Speaking of which, I want to turn something off to people real quick, and I'm going to embiggen myself to do it because this is a picture I got from you not too long ago, and it's one of the coolest things ever. I'm still waiting to get it framed. But guys,
oh, the Princess Leia. Yeah.
If that doesn't make you fall in love with this woman, I don't know what does. Look at this. That is just gorgeous. Look at the light coming off of her. The fine little touches where her hair is lit up on the sides, and then the way the shadow is cast. Every little line, every little detail is absolutely exquisite, and it's one of the most beautiful things. You capture the light in people's eyes, in a really fascinating way that makes them look real and alive. Like, because people's eyes have a little bit of moisture on them, and that's what makes them, they glisten. And her eyes just have that look like I'm alive. This is a living person, and this is just beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Holy cow!
But like I was saying, I'm the biggest Star Wars nerd on the planet. I eat, breathe, and sleep that shit. You see what I'm wearing, right?
Yep. Indeed.
My Boba Fett hat and Chewie's over there. So, but anyway, that's the approach I take to prop building, is the used universe. I think it's more believable that way. There are prop makers and prop builders that they prefer the right off the assembly line look. Like, here's the Mandalorian. He just went to the gun store and bought his blaster brand new from a dealer. Some people dig that. Not me.
I'm with you. I like for things to feel like they've got a little bit of weight and story behind them instead of because there's a story that's inherent in that, right? As opposed to here's this thing, it's on a shelf. There's nothing interesting ever happened to it, but you get a gun that's got a big nick in the barrel or in the stock or something. There's a story there.
I got a story for you.
Love stories.
So Jack's Cosmic Rod, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I put this on there. I don't know if he would ever have actually done it in the series. We'll never know because he's retired. But I always thought that Jack would carry a lot of guilt around for the people that he was put into a situation that he had to take their life. Jack is not a killer. And I can say that because I co-created him, and I don't think it's part of his makeup. And I think the fact that he had to do it in the series really fucked him up.
Yeah.
And he's going to carry that in a pretty harsh way the rest of his life. So I always thought he would have marked his cosmic staff with every person that he had to do that to, but not in the way that people would think. So that's why I never drew it anywhere in the books. I think people would have kind of taken it the wrong way. Like
it was a reminder,
like keeping score.
It was a reminder that he wouldn't forget those people. But I think people would have looked at it like a fighter pilot who puts,
right.
Yeah.
Billy the Kid filing notches on a 6-gun.
Yeah. And so when I built the Cosmic Rod for me, they're all represented there. And that's just me. Again, I don't think it would especially in today's day and age, the way the world is, I don't think something like that would fly. No pun intended.
Oh, it's my headcanon now, so
right. It's in my head now, so that's how I'm going to look at it. That's awesome. Speaking of canon and things changing and whatnot, one of the reasons that we wanted to bring you on the show is we wanted to talk to you about your newest project that you've got out right now. Do you want to pop that back up, the link, Alan? Because you've got a project that's out right now in crowdfunding, right?
Yeah. It's this book I did with B. Clay Moore at DC Comics. And I can't tell you exactly how old it is until I look in here.
It's 2013.
It's 2013. Okay, so what is that? That's 10 years old.
9 years.
9 years ago.
9 years ago. Yeah, so this book right here, and it was originally a 6-issue miniseries, and DC collected it in this softcover trade paperback to no fanfare whatsoever. It just kind of went away like a fart. And
really good ones linger.
It doesn't mean that we weren't proud of the work. We were very, very proud of it. And we actually had intentions of doing a lot more than the 6 issues that we did. Our original intention was to do about 40 or 50 issues.
And now Owen is going to die because he really wanted those 40 or 50 issues.
Yeah, so did I. So did I. And so it would have been about the length of Ex Machina. And
Wow.
so after some time had passed, Clay and I talked about it, and we decided, we really would like to get that book, that property back. They clearly have no intention of doing anything with it. So there's a legal process you have to go through. So we contacted them and asked about it, and got all the information from them on all the hoops that you had to jump through. And we had waited the allotted amount of time that you had to, and we were lucky. We got it back, and they sent us all the digital files for print. They were super, super cooperative and helpful in that regard. And the only thing we had to do was we had to remove the members of the JSA, Our Man, Dr. Midnight, and Wildcat from the book. And they only appeared in the first couple pages of issue 1 and the last page of issue 6. And we planned on their presence being greater in the larger series eventually, because we were going to integrate our guys into the 52. They were in the middle of all that 52 stuff at that point. So that was all we had to do. So basically, rather than try to redesign brand new characters, which we didn't have the time to really do, their roles were so small in this story that I just altered their costumes slightly and changed the color. And that basically eliminates any conflict there. So,
Cool.
And then Dave McKay, our colorist, our wonderful colorist, he decided that he wanted to take another pass on the color. It didn't quite print. Everybody you're on deadline, so you run out of time with things. And so he ultimately decided he would like to take another pass at it, and we had the time to do it. So he has gone over the entire 6 issues and given it a clean bill of health.
Okay.
I'm going to pop up an image from this book. And anybody who's watching this, we have the link up in the comments earlier on. If you haven't looked at this, and if this doesn't make you want to buy this book, I don't know what will. Look at this. There's a story there, and I want to know what it is, right? You don't want to miss that.
Well, I can one-up you.
Well, that's not surprising.
Okay, here's the original to the new
Oh,
book.
man, I've been looking at this on your Facebook, and this is freaking amazing. Look at that.
It's lovely.
Yeah, the original's 20 by 30, and the light is crap on it right now. But I wanted to have a brand new cover on the thing, and if you go to the Zoop site and decide you want to contribute, I actually talk about my process on this image, and I show step-by-steps of how I did it.
Do you have a favorite cover from like your entire body of work that you just always come back to as like your favorite?
Shit, no. Look, it sounds cheesy, right? It sounds cheesy and stupid.
I get it.
To say this, I'm going to say it anyway because it's true. That would be like, okay, I have a difficult time with my work. I really don't like most of it, and I really struggle to produce stuff that I can be proud of. It's an ongoing struggle every day. It's difficult for me to look at most of what I've done and published, but there are pieces that I see stuff in my head, and I very rarely get more than about 30% of that on paper.
Wow.
It's difficult. So when I do a piece that gets way closer to that, that's a special piece. And that's only happened a few times. And I've kept those pieces, and they hang at my house, or they're here in the studio. And then there are a few pieces that my wife, Becca, I finish it, and she's like, I'll smash your face in if you try to sell that.
So she's very subtle, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
She hasn't really made her feelings known on it.
No.
Tony, there was
She
a
says
book
it while
that,
holding a sledgehammer. That's the
So,
problem.
so it would be like me trying to pick one of my kids
right.
and choosing them as being my, because that's a piece of my soul every time I put a piece out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, all the artwork you do that you hate, we'll take it off of your hands for you. We don't want you to have to look at that and suffer with
Yeah, and I won't even charge my usual storage fee. Just send it up.
Unfortunately, when that happens, I usually destroy it.
I believe that. I believe that. That's heartbreaking to me, but I believe
it is heartbreaking. That's
That makes sense.
My wife, Becca, is amazing, and she has kind of stopped that. And because
Thank you, Becca.
Kind of reminds me of like what DC used to do with all their pages back in the 50s. You know, they stick them in the closet. When it got too full, they take all their pages and throw them in the furnace.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, they'd have like kids come for field trips from elementary schools. Like, and this is in the 50s, and they just give them a piece of like golden age artwork to take home.
Yeah.
You know, that's why all that stuff's like wholly just absent.
Yeah, and Neil Gaiman, Neil Adams, was integral to turning all that around and eventually getting original art returned to all of us. So we owe him that.
Yeah,
that's huge. Now, you've got behind you the outfit in almost its entirety. There, I don't see a skull, but
that's because I'm building the mask.
You're building. Okay.
Of course he is.
Of course you are.
But the real question is, whose skull did you take?
Well, actually, it's the original mask that
Abby Normal.
The original mask that I used when I did the series, and you can actually see pictures of it on the Zoop site, because I actually got models together and put them in the costumes and then shot reference for this painting, for the new painting. The original mask I wanted it to look shitty on purpose, because in the story, the main character, William, when he becomes the skull, I wanted it to look like something out of an old 1940s serial movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the effects were not great back then. They were kind of crappy. So I wanted it to have that feel, that it wasn't some polished Hollywood thing that he was wearing. I wanted it to be clear to people when they were in his presence and dealing with him that he was wearing a mask, and it was clear that he was wearing a mask, and it was just to hide his identity and to make people afraid.
Did you ever see Willow?
Willow.
Yeah, it was the George Lucas fantasy film.
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like General Kale, who was like the guy who wore the skull mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Langella's character.
So that's what I wanted it to look like, and so I found this one Halloween when we started working on the project. I just went to like a CVS or Party City or something, and I found this crappy rubber mask that was like $3 or something. It was a half mask. It wasn't even a full mask. And I bought that, and then I brought it home, and I took paper towels and liquid latex, and then constructed what looked like rotting skin all over the rubber skull, and then airbrushed the whole thing green and red, and that was it.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's
okay,
not
Nick.
That's not.
You want to see Ex Machina? I tell you what, Nick, I'll do you one better. I'll just order you a copy of the first trade and put it in your box at the store, because you're gonna want it.
Yeah, how many people are watching right now?
Not a ton right now. The numbers always fluctuate as people come in and go off, but we get a lot more views after the fact.
Yeah.
So over the course of the next week, we'll have bigger numbers.
Because you'll just put the show up for people to watch at their leisure.
Yeah, we simulcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and it stays on YouTube up in the library, and people access it from there. We've got a couple hundred subscribers, so people put it in there. Wait, James, are you saying you need it too? We'll get you all copies.
And I'm
sorry. Let's go ahead and order 3.
I'm sorry that Clay wasn't able to show up. I know he had some things to deal with today, so
that's okay. We'll bring him back on Thursday after Thanksgiving, and we'll hear it from his side.
Yeah.
How can you not like a dude whose name is Claymore? I mean, that's explosive.
So
yeah, I'm going to do my very, very best to promote this show and make sure that it goes across all my social media. So people, and I did that since last night. So hopefully when people have a minute, they'll come and watch it.
Awesome. Nick Ellis from Two Brothers Comics. That's a YouTube show they've got a show on Saturday nights. Usually they do a live show on Friday or Saturday nights. Those dudes are awesome. Big comics fans, and they've shared this out as well. So appreciate that, Nick. And if you guys want to talk to Tony about coming on your show, maybe you should do that because he's one heck of a guest.
Thank you. And we are actually planning some press and some additional podcasts and interviews and stuff throughout the next month, throughout the remainder of the month that the campaign's up. So.
Cool. And Tony did mention his social media. Here's the link to his Instagram, and he has got some amazing art on his Instagram if y'all have not seen it.
And for anybody who can't spell, that is Tony effing Harris.
And also too, feel free, guys, to come by and visit my website. It's TonyHarrisArts.com. Easy to remember.
And y'all, he sells a lot of art that he's not happy with apparently, but he sells a lot of art and it is glorious. I know I've got this Princess Leia piece. Damon, you've got the Starman commission.
Yes,
right?
That thing is awesome.
And that thing is glorious.
Damon, on the wall. It's beautiful.
Damon just bought a Lando Calrissian piece for me today, which my wife just shipped it out today.
Now
I got the receipt. I saw it.
I've got
Tony, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Damon, then I'll ask mine.
There was a book that you and Dan Jolly did several years ago called Obergeist.
Yeah.
God, that was
Obergeist was awesome. I loved Obergeist.
It's one of my favorites. I didn't know what to expect going in, but I read it and I loved it. And I was wondering if there was any desire or idea to go back to that universe at all ever.
God, I forgot all.
Yeah. I can't tell you when or how, but here's the hardcover.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you guys even know about this hardcover.
No, I don't know about the hardcover, but I loved that book.
Top Cat was really great to us. We did the 6-issue mini with them, and and this was after DC Comics actually bought it originally.
Wasn't there another project?
And they canceled the book on us while we were in production when they found out what they were actually publishing.
So someone decided to read the script, huh?
Yeah, well, no, they Paul Levitz signed off on it.
Wow.
When he bought the property, but when he saw the final art for issue 1, he was like, "I'm not publishing this."
Really?
Well, yeah, because the main character is an ex-Nazi.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No way, this is not happening at DC Comics." So my then friend Alex Ross was nice enough to introduce me to some people at Top Cow and facilitated our move over there, and they bought the contract from DC. But they put the book out, all 6 issues, and we did a prequel 1 issue after that, and all of it was collected in the Obergeist Director's Cut, it was called.
Yeah, I think I've got that on the shelf.
Yeah, and I did a sculpture of Geist for the cover, which we photographed and then used on the front. So there's that edition, and then this edition came out from Desperado Press, Joe Pruitt, who is now the editor and
at Aftershock.
At Aftershock, runs the show over there. This was his company, and he put out this. What is it called? The Essential Edition, and this is put together with that one-shot prequel, cut up into chapters and integrated into the body of the 6 issues.
Oh, that's awesome!
That is cool.
And it's hardcover. And here's the other good part. It has a tip-in plate with a brand new illustration I did just for the hardcover that is signed by myself and the writer.
That's amazing.
See if I can get that a little closer where you can see it.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, man.
I'd forgotten all about that book. I'd forgotten you did it. I forgot it existed. I remember when it came out loving it. And I have the same director's cut Damon has. I hadn't looked at it forever, but I'm going to have to dig that out.
Yeah, but mine is signed.
Mine is definitely not signed.
Yeah, you got the director's cut. Oh, yeah, Bruce Campbell wrote our introduction for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. God.
But yeah, Dan and I have the rights back. Obviously, it's ours. That's how we got the essential edition done. And we have talked about the possibility of revisiting the book, and we had ideas for other stories. Clearly,
It's a wild story when you did put out.
But my life has gone in a different direction than Dan's, and people's lives drift that way.
Right.
And so, whether or not that's possible, I can't tell you. But we do own
Just to know that there are ideas going around makes me happy.
We do own it, and there's always the possibility of film and television.
So on your Instagram, and I'm actually going to share my screen so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. There is one particular painting that you've done that's on your Instagram that literally jumped out at me. I know nothing about this, and I may be about to show some stupidity, but I have got to know more about this. And naturally, my screen's going to do that.
Ha 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 ha!
Dude, that is awesome. Can you tell me more about that? I saw that on your Instagram, and I was like, holy shit, that's gorgeous.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. Not by the image. I'm proud of the work, but I'm trying to remember what the book was called. It was Owl Girl.
She almost looks like Dove.
Yeah,
That's what I thought it was.
It has a Battle of the Planets flavor to it. You know, Gotcha Man. I didn't design the costume or the characters, but they hired me to do this variant for it. And if you do a search for Owl Girl, I think you'll find what you're looking for.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram, and it jumped out at me, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to ask about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting job. I never know what I'm going to get asked to do. That's what one of the best parts about my job is. Every day's a surprise. So
and this is going to be totally off topic, but kind of on topic. With as busy as you are, do you still have time to sit down and read comics and enjoy comics?
No, I read very little. Not because I don't want to, but and this may not be true of a lot of other pros, but I can only answer for myself. I found that once I became a professional, my reading took a nosedive. You are so neck deep on the production side of things and actually producing these books, and you would not believe the amount of time that it eats up. I did it as a joke one time. Me and some pals got together and we're drinking one night and decided we were going to sit around and figure out what we actually all make per hour.
That's painful.
We should never have done that.
No, that's depressing.
I think I was making something like 12 cents an hour or something like that, or worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, and it's really not a job as much as it's you, if that makes sense. I mean, it is a job. There are lots of parts of it that are just like every other job. You know, you got bosses, you got bullshit to deal with, you got deadlines, but it's also art, and you're creating beautiful things. You hope so anyway, and you're connecting with your fan base in a way that I don't really see in most other mediums of art. You guys have very much kind of an unfettered access to the guys creating the stuff that you read that a lot of folks can't say about movies and TV. Now, you still, there's more access to movie stars now than ever, but not the top echelon. And if you want anything close to that, you got to pay so much money to even get a signature when you meet them. But and I like that aspect, because I'm a nerd just like everybody else. I'm probably a bigger nerd than most people. And so when I get to meet, you fellas and stuff like this or at shows, we just sit around and talk about goofy shit and being nerds and how awesome comics are. And I'd love to be able to read more than I do, but it's just, with my family life, I've got 3 kids that are, most of them are grown up and gone now and have their own families. And I have a 15-year-old still at home, but when you have a personal life and you're married and you have children too, you got to take that into account. And by the time, that happens, and then you're doing the job part of producing comics, there's not a whole lot left after that. So you got to try to squeeze out time for anything else. And so I always thought it was important to have a hobby that was not drawing, right? Because that's what I do all day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why I build things. That's why I sculpt and build props and, latch hook wood gear and stuff like that, because that brings me joy in a way that drawing and painting just can't.
Now, when it comes to doing covers, do you prefer painting or drawing?
Yes. No, if I could choose, I would choose to paint. It is a completely different approach and mindset that you have to get into, and I feel like I take shortcuts that you guys never see them, of course, because I won't let that happen. But I feel like with pen and ink and digital color, with that digital color, it allows you liberties that you don't have when you're painting. It's almost impossible to hide mistakes and take shortcuts that are not painfully apparent when you're painting.
I tell you, I don't know what it was about the way you just described that, but I was talking with Jim Shooter a while back, and we got to talking about Bill Sienkiewicz, and he said that Bill Sienkiewicz, when he first brought him his idea for what he wanted to do with stuff on the New Mutants, when he was experimenting with that art style, he said he brought in this massive thing. It was like 6 feet tall, and it was stuff glued onto it and sticking out of it, and it was all kinds of different media. It was all manner of stuff. Just absolutely hysterical. But he's like, what are you going to do? The man's an artistic genius. I thought it was crazy, but I also thought it was amazing.
Yeah, Bill famously works really big. And back then, you didn't have access to scanners back then.
Right.
They didn't exist. The only people that had scanners were the printers, and they had these huge drum scanners. So if you didn't paint on floppy, thin media or paper, then they would take your paintings. I always paint on board, always have. And back then, they would peel my paintings off.
Oh, no.
The board. And, well, they did it until they ripped one of them, and then I ripped somebody a new asshole. So a lot of the Starman covers originally back in the day at the beginning of the series, they had to actually have them shot to film, like by a photographer, which I don't know how they did. I don't know how that's done. That just makes my mind hurt. But
yeah, that's crazy.
But ultimately, the invention of flatbed scanners changed everything, so you didn't have that problem. But I still have a couple of paintings in my possession that were peeled off the backing board. One of them's an Obergeist painting that I have, and they just taped it back on.
Oh, Lord have mercy!
Perfect.
Did they come back at you and tell you that it was that was like a metaphor for the redemption of this former Nazi character or something like that?
I guess maybe so. I don't know.
Did they at least have some? So did they try to pitch you some BS to make you feel better about it?
Oh, no, I wasn't having it. I just lost my mind at that point. That was back when I was young, and I was just full of rage all the time. So I probably just blew up and made everybody poop in their pants, and they just left me alone.
Good.
Well, if they pooped in their pants, you didn't want to be around them anyway.
That's right.
No, I'm a much kindler, gentler Tony these days.
Well, I tell you, I for one, I'm very excited to see to get this book in our hands, because what it looks like I'm back on the Whistling Skull now, by the way.
Yeah.
I had this total jump back. It looks like you guys are going all out from a printing perspective. This is going to be like a top-notch printing job.
Yeah, this is the presentation that we wanted instead of this. This is fine. This is fine. There's nothing wrong with this trade paperback. It was awesome, but we were certainly hoping that they would ultimately maybe do a hardcover because they've done so much else like that. And they, with my work specifically, they've made a point of keeping it in print because if they don't, then the rights will revert. I mean, so bye. Love you. And
Love you.
Love you.
Sincerely, she's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, she's amazing and helps me run everything smoothly, and I couldn't do it without her. But yeah, so this hardcover is everything that we wanted to do but never got the chance to do. And then once we got the rights back, we just sat on them for a while. To be honest, we just didn't know what to do and how to go about it. And then Jordan, one of the two guys that owns Zoop, Plosky, I think is his last name, if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry, Jordan. But he just came up to my table at HeroesCon and introduced himself and told me about Zoop and explained everything to me about how it works and the difference between them and some of the other platforms like Kickstarter and places like that is that they actually offer the option of printing, distributing, and shipping. They do all of it.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
So that's not left to us as the creators to arrange for that kind of thing to happen. So once the campaign is over, any books that are to be signed or I'm supposed to do sketches will be sent directly to my studio. And I'll take care of all that here. And then they arrange for them to be actually picked up and shipped directly from here straight to all the backers. So that kind of, and they're handling all the printing, all of it. So it's such a hassle-free situation, and it's so much easier for you guys to come in and be a part of something that you know is going to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Especially in a situation like this with the skull, because it's done. The only thing we had to wait for was me to finish painting that cover, and you just saw it. That's done.
So you mentioned,
Go ahead.
Oh, you've mentioned this a couple times, and it kind of got me curious. I know we're starting to run short on time, so I'll make this quick. When it comes to like going back, and we'll just use DC for example. When you go back to DC to get the rights back, what's that process like? I mean, are the major companies cool with stuff like that, or I mean, is it kind of cause hurt feelings, or how do they approach that?
Well, I'll tell you this. They currently own I got to be careful how I put things. They currently own the publishing rights for Ex Machina. Brian and I own all the film rights and the ancillary stuff for film and television. They don't have even a single percentage of that. That's completely me and Brian. They no longer offer that deal anymore, which is why you don't see a lot of creator-owned stuff coming out of DC. And if you do see it coming out of DC, they own a part of, ancillary stuff and whatnot. Like with the Whistling Skull, to get that published, I made some sacrifices with DC. My attorney and manager at the time, well, he still is, Harris Miller. He's an awesome guy. He really didn't want me to sign the contract. He was like, you do realize what you're signing. If you sign that contract, they have a piece of the film rights and they have control over those film rights. So you're just kind of along for the ride there. But thankfully, when we did ask for the reversion, that never came up. They did not express any interest at all in retaining any of those rights. And they clearly, as I mentioned before, did not have any interest in publishing it any further. They've already done their collection. That's out of print as well. So it was a pretty painless process. They have guidelines, of course, where after the book is finally published for its last time, which was the trade, there's a time period you have to wait that's so long, like a couple years, whatever it is. I don't remember now. And once you wait that time period, all you have to do is have your attorneys or whatever send them a letter with your intent clearly stated, which is I would like a reversion of all rights back to me and Clay, and we own it 50-50. And they said yes. And we just had to go through, a few more steps in that process. It's boring. You don't want to hear about it. And then they provide us with all the film and print files. And that's the end of it.
Very cool.
Now, I know some guys have not had an easy time with that. With other things, we were fortunate. And Obergeist was not a bad situation because after they canceled it, we just dealt with Top Cow, and they were amazing. There was no trouble there. But with Ex Machina, they do own the publishing rights for that currently. And by own, I mean as long as they keep the book in print, we cannot get a reversion of rights. So we are in a similar situation that Alan Moore's in with The Watchmen.
Right.
And I'm sure everybody knows about that. That's all very public. That as long as DC keeps Watchmen in print in some form, the legal language in the contracts say that they don't ever have to allow the book to be reverted back to Alan. They will own it in perpetuity. So I assume that's the same umbrella that Brian and I are living under with Ex Machina. Is as long as they keep it in print, and they have for the 13, 15 years, however long it's been, they'll own it. Except for the movies and stuff. We can do all that. So it's weird. Cool. It's strange, isn't it? Like they handle all the books and everything, but all the movie stuff is us. So and I'm not sure how the film adaptation in comics will actually work.
Huh.
That remains to be seen. I assume that they get to do it. So
I have an idea how they should do it.
I want to draw it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an idea for him.
Tony, how much longer does the Whistling Skull campaign have? How many more days?
We started with a 30-day campaign, so this is day 2.
Okay.
And I don't think it's in any danger of funding, guys.
You don't think it's getting funded?
I don't think it's in any danger of not getting funded. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we're over $7,000 in less than 48 hours. So.
Well, I just backed it, so.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
And for anybody who has not yet backed it, we did back it. Thank you for putting in a retailer tier. A lot of guys don't do that, and that makes it very hard for us as retailers to carry and promote books.
It is something that was on my mind and Clay's mind from the get-go, but I can't take the credit for that. The fellas at Zoop were the ones that said, we really need to make this available for retailers.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys are taking advantage of that. So, and listen, everybody who's watching this in the sound of my voice, within the sound of my voice, or that sees this later, just know that we're less than $3,000 away from hitting our goal, the launch goal. So as soon as that launch goal is hit, that automatically starts unlocking stretch goals. And we have big plans for the book as far as like an entire cover gallery that's going to be in the back. There's going to be supplemental material that Clay wrote. There's going to be pages, like 16 or 20 pages of all of my design sketches. And
oh man, those are like a freaking character design Bible. I love that.
Like this is an example of one that will be in the book if we hit stretch goals.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is a character who was only in the book for like 1 page, but this is the length I go to design a character that's only going to appear in 1 page.
It's amazing.
So
that kind of world building is what makes it for me, because everything feels real.
Yeah, me too. And so there's listed on the site right now, there's 3 different tiers of stretch goals that are there, but they have question marks and they're secret, so we don't tell you exactly what they all are now. So I can't go into details beyond that, but suffice to say, if we start hitting stretch goals, this book is going to go from awesome to like next level whip ass.
Well, it's over $7,000 in just slightly more than 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. The way that these things go, you're going to well surpass that. So I hope you guys have plans for even more stretch goals potentially, because I think you're going to get there.
If we don't right now, if those other ones are met pretty quick, then we'll come up with more stuff. Because like I said, I have so much. I mean, I could put an entire diary of the construction of this costume into the back of the book if I wanted to, and stuff like that. So yeah, we won't run out of additional material.
Well, don't be surprised if you meet a cosplayer who shows up at your table in that costume, because you're giving them everything they need to build it.
Yeah, I would love that. I would absolutely.
Bro, your final stretch goal should be you wearing the costume.
That's true. That's true.
I can't fit in that, Jack.
Oh, come on.
That's made for a skinnier fella than me.
Well, Damon will wear it for you.
No, I'm not that skinny, I don't think.
Actually, when I got this girdle here, it's called his combat girdle, but it's actually a leather back brace from World War II, from Italy, and I actually tried to put that damn thing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't get the buckles buckled. So, but it's weird. I collect, as I mentioned off camera earlier. I collect World War II militaria, not the repro stuff, but the real thing. My studio's filled with it, and everybody was tiny back then.
Yeah.
You know, they say people in the Victorian period were small human beings, and they were little bitty people.
They didn't have Krispy Kreme donuts, bro. Come on.
Yeah, and they didn't have processed food. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's when food was real and there were no preservatives in it.
Yeah.
So, and that was also why Spam was created as well, for soldiers. But yeah, so everybody was like super tiny. Like, you know, when I buy uniforms and stuff in the past, it's like you're lucky if you got anything above a small or a medium.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's nuts. You can't find shoes much larger than about an 8.5 or a 9 for a man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I was in Innsbruck, Austria in 1997, and you bear in mind I'm 6'6" and 420 pounds.
6'6", Jesus.
Yeah, he's a big fella.
I'm a big guy. So I'm in Innsbruck, Austria, and I'm at the museum there for Maximilian, the first Holy Roman Emperor, right?
Yeah.
And they have his full suit of armor there.
It looked like for a child, didn't it?
It looked like for a small child. I was like, what 8-year-old kid is wearing this? That was a full-grown man? You've got to be kidding me.
Like I mentioned this before. It's an actual Victorian bowler derby.
God, look at that.
That I got in London.
It's beautiful.
And look at this.
You're right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that there's no way that's going on my head.
I'm pure muscle, but I hide it all under a protective layer of fat.
Yeah. So, yeah, and plus I have a large cranium, so I have trouble with hats. But
yeah, me too, bro.
Yeah, the Chewbacca costume, I can wear that because I actually made it for my son, who's I posted a shot recently on my social media with him.
Yeah, he's tall too, right? He's like
he's 6'6".
Yeah.
So when he wears that Chewbacca costume, he's over 7 feet in that.
Woo!
But
man, that's awesome.
But it's made for him, so I can't really. I can wear the mask just fine, but I can't really wear the bodysuit because I made it like an idiot to fit him, and I didn't just make a generic size,
right?
So that anybody could wear it. I tailored it directly to him, and like Jackass moved away to New Orleans.
What ungrateful!
So
that's not the best place to wear that either.
No. It's not. Well,
I mean, as bad as Georgia is, New Orleans is a little bit worse.
So our plan originally was to do some shows in the Southeast that we could drive to, and then I was going to be his handler, and he was going to wear the suit, and we were going to do some cosplay. But yeah, that's not going to happen. So.
I don't know, man. He could come up to Huntsville. You could come to Huntsville. It's perfect.
No, not wearing that.
If you would redo that for a plus size model, I'll wear it to the Huntsville Pop Culture Expo for you.
Yeah, but how
You're
tall are you?
He's very short.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
He's pushing Hobbit.
that's my major problem that I've seen with so many cosplayers that do a Chewie costume is that they don't have the height for it. And so they wear like these painter's stilts and stuff like that they build into the costume. So Chewie's feet go like from calf down to these gigantic things. And okay, you solve the height problem, sort of. I don't like the big feet looking thing. But what they don't solve is the fact that their arms look like regular size arms. Whereas if you look at Peter Mayhew in that costume, his arms come down past his mid thigh, which
they're crazy long. Yeah,
everybody's arms come to about that length on the side of you. So my son, being 6'6", and he's got long like gorilla arms too. He looks completely proportionate in that costume. It's incredible to see him in it.
That picture was amazing. I would have thought you had Peter Mayhew in your bathroom.
Well, my costume's not that good, but we did spend a lot of time researching photographs and before I ever did the sculpt to make sure that we got it right. And we wanted it to be as screen accurate to New Hope as possible. It's not perfect, but I'm working on a 0.2 version now. So we haven't even started the build on that yet. It'll be better.
God, that's awesome. That's amazing. Well, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on our show and talking with folks. I'm really, really excited to get my copy of the Whistling Skull. And for anybody who is not able to go and order it at Zoop, I actually just encourage you to go order it on Zoop. But if you're local here to Huntsville and you're not able to do that, we did back it at the retailer tier, so we're going to have copies at the store available. So come and get it.
And somebody's just asked the question, did I use real yak hair? And yeah, thanks for all the support on the book. I hope I didn't just talk about costumes the whole time and not about comics enough.
No, this has been
talked
phenomenal.
about a lot of comics. What are you talking about?
But yeah, somebody asked just now if I used real yak hair. That's what they used in '77 for Chewie's costume, but that is exorbitantly expensive.
I would think
to use that, and the stuff that they used. If you look at supplemental material on the movies and making of stuff, you can find a lot of photographs too of they actually hand knotted that yak hair into stretchy mesh suits that Peter wore. His wife, Stuart Freeborn's wife, actually did most of that hand knotting for the suits, and I ain't about to do that. I mean, I'm light hooking the hair onto a mesh suit, so yeah, I am doing that labor intensive stuff. But it's about 10 or 12 hairs at a time, and then you fold those in half. So you get about a 20 bundle piece of hair that you just latch hook in. But the mask itself, that is all sewn in hair in the back, and then I hand punch it on Chewie's face with human hair. So,
wow.
Look at your question.
I tell you that we had a guy who comes into the store every now and again. I haven't seen him in a long time. Strange individual. But he comes in and he's always wanting the statues. He's particularly wanting statues of Wonder Woman. And he's y'all have that Wonder Woman statue, the one with the human hair. Do y'all have that Wonder Woman statue with the human hair? Y'all have that? And then he'll show a picture of it online. And I'm like, you're creeping me out, bro. Stop with that.
Wait a minute. They have a statue with real hair on it?
They do.
Oh, wait, you're talking about that 1-to-1 bust.
It's not even that. No, it's a statue, full figure statue about this tall, but it's got real human hair. It's creepy.
Wait, is it one of the...
It's got to be Hot Toys or Sideshow.
Yeah, I think that's the Sideshow 1/4.
Yeah.
Yeah, the legendary scale. Yeah.
I think they do that.
Because I collect all the Hot Toy stuff. I got a shitload of them in here.
Yeah, I just got Mando.
Oh, did you?
Me out every time he comes in and asks that.
I stick to the original trilogy, and I'm safe. And I still have money.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
If I open that Pandora's box of going anywhere beyond Return of the Jedi, I'm fine.
So if the opportunity ever came up to do a Star Wars book, would you be interested?
Yeah.
I'll get right on that and see what I can do, because I would love that.
Yeah, let's see what you can do. I mean, I've actually been talking or trying to talk to some folks over at Marvel recently, so we'll see. Because our 3PO book did tremendously well.
That was a great book.
Yeah, those were the biggest royalty checks I've ever gotten from Marvel. The book sold. I think we premiered it like number 3 or 4 when the book came out on Top 100, Diamond's Top 100, and it did amazing. So
yeah,
and we had such a blast on it, and that was a dream come true for me to be a part of canon. You know, there was films and stuff, because that story idea was actually written by JJ. It was just like a little plot point, and then James took that and then fleshed it out. But yeah, that was a dream come true for me. So if I have the opportunity to do it again, I've worked for Lucasfilm in the past, on and off. I've done quite a bit of stuff. So, but I'd jump at it in a heartbeat.
Sweet.
So great.
I actually have this story. I'm not going to keep any longer, I promise. But
I want to hear this.
I have this story that I'd love to pitch, called Breaking Bread.
Okay.
Star Wars Breaking Bread, right? And okay, so Empire Strikes Back. All right. Lando goes and gets everybody to come to have some refreshments, right? They go to the room, doors open, there's Vader and Boba Fett, right? They have their little exchange, and then it ends with Vader saying what? We would be honored if you would join us. The door's shut. You never see what happens in that room.
Right.
Next time you see Han, he's being tortured, right? My idea for that story is everything that transpired in that room at that dinner.
Oh, I would read the crap out of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Hit me, Marvel.
Oh man, I would read that.
That needs to happen, bro.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell me I'm the only person that hasn't thought about what happened in that room.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't know that I've ever thought about it. I was just so like.
Yeah, think about Vader, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca. 3PO wasn't in there, and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Try to get Boba Fett and Han Solo to sit across from each other at a table.
Those kind of stories that take place around a dinner table are always, if they're done right, if they're executed right, they are so good.
Issue 29 of Starman.
Yeah. There was an issue of Moon Knight a few years ago.
Was it 29 or was it 32? Bobo Benetti was 29.
Yeah, Benetti is 29.
I think, because it's the headshot cover of Starman. Where
that's 32.
Jack has dinner with the JSA.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my favorite issue of the whole series, right there. And you're right, man. You can find out so much more about characters in a conversation like that than you could in any amount of action going on. Yeah,
you absolutely can. There was an issue of Moon Knight a couple of years ago where it was him having dinner with all of these enemies, and they're all just kind of talking around the topic, but they're all going to kill him. Yeah. You know, they're like, we're being polite right now, but we're all about to kill you. And the whole time he's sitting there plotting how he's going to kill them. And then he tells them exactly what he's going to do. And then he does it. And it was beautiful to read.
Yeah. And imagine that dinner, Vader is going to sit there and gloat. And he's going to tell all of them exactly what he's got planned for Luke. And the whole damn thing was a trap from the get-go. And she is going to put in her 2 cents worth in that, because that woman is a spitfire right there. Yeah, and I would love to draw her and the way her hair was and everything while she was in Cloud City. It would just be a blast. Oh, man, yeah.
Cloud City's just so freaking beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want this to happen. If you need people to sign a petition, we'll do it.
Do it.
Hell yeah.
Start hammering at Marvel. Tell them.
So, question right quick. On the C-3PO book, was that your cover work also on the cover of that one?
Yeah, that was a painting I did, and it was bigger than the Whistling Skull. That was 30 by 40. The size of a movie poster. I painted it.
Yeah.
And true story, I was at a convention, and I had the original with me. And Anthony Daniels was there appearing.
Oh, wow.
And his agent that does all his bookings for America for appearances, he came and bought the painting from me so that he could have it for the rest of Anthony's tour on an easel behind him at all the signings.
Wow.
And when I went to deliver the painting to his name is Ben, to Ben, I got some private time with Anthony behind the curtain. We actually got to meet, and
Wow.
I got my picture taken with him, and he signed a print I had made of the painting and everything. So that was another like bucket list moment for me.
Have you read Anthony Daniels' book that came out a couple of years ago?
No. But I got to meet him, and I also got to meet Peter, obviously, before he passed, years and years ago. And I met David Prowse. So
Nice.
Those are the only 3 guys I got to meet from the franchise. So.
Very
I met Jeremy Bullock once. He was awesome. He was a super sweet guy.
Oh yeah, I did meet Jeremy. I'm sorry, we had drinks at a bar one time, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, he was amazing. But sadly, I did a buttload of conventions where Carrie was 2 tables away from me, and I never took the time to just go over and meet her, and I regret that so much now.
She was amazing.
I was this close to meeting you and McGregor at Fan Expo last year. Same agent that was doing Anthony's bookings, by the way.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, he said, "Why don't you come on over and you can meet Ewan while he's here?" And I got so busy at my table, I just didn't get up and go, and I missed it. This was post celebration too. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Screw me.
Yeah, that stinks. You'll get another shot, I bet. He'll be around.
But thanks for your time, guys. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you.
This was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thanks to everybody who's watching and who's tuned in and decided to spend a little bit of your time with us. And I hope you will go over and support our campaign for the Whistling Skull book. It's some of the work I'm the most proud of in my career, and it is the absolute presentation that Clay and I hoped that we would get. So
perfect.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. Go back it, everybody. If you can't back it for whatever reason, you will have it available at Haven. So come and pick it up. We'll be happy to sell you a copy. And the ones that we're going to get are going to come autographed, so that'll be awesome. You don't have to worry about that. But, sir, no, genuinely, thank you so much for your time. You're making Damon and Owen very happy right this moment.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go. But thank you so much for your time. You are an amazing guy to talk to. I could listen to you talk all day. So anytime you ever want to come on and talk about whatever project you've got coming out, whatever, you have a standing invitation. We'd love to have you back anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
all
much.
right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. You'll all have a great night. We are going to play everybody off with our traditional closing video because it makes me laugh. So let me get down. There it is.